We're the cool kids now with Trump's election successful. You know, he stormed back to the White House with the second most votes in U.S. history. Did you know that, Charles Thomas?
Yeah, we're the cool kids, but don't go downtown with a Make America Great hat on. Not yet.
I know. Isn't it so sad that we still can't do that and we still whisper? Like some people still quietly come up to you and say, I'm a Republican, or look around and say, I listen to your station. And I'm like, you don't have to whisper. I mean, when are we going to be able to come out of the shadows and, really be one of the cool kids?
Yeah, it's tough, though. It's tough. But, I feel good being on the right side of history.
Good, especially since you started out on the wrong side. Because I used to be a Democrat, too, and then I just started, similar to you, really getting to know our Illinois Democratic politicians. And I didn't like what I saw, and I didn't like what I heard. And for them, it was never about us. It was always about them.
But, the Democrats used to be anchored. They had their, what I used to call their blue dog Democrats, the ones who kind of kept them, they were center right, but they kept them toward the middle. Those people went away. The 19th Warders in Chicago, those guys, the John Strogers of the world, they kept the party centered. And then when the party let them go, they just went crazy left. And I think they really lost the election on the cultural issues. I really do. I think that's what really broke their back.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So talking about the first family and President Trump, his wife, Melania, First Lady, absolutely strikingly gorgeous. She is silent, but she is strong and stern. She speaks 5 different languages, and she's absolutely gorgeous. And during the first Trump administration, she never donned the cover of Vogue magazine.
How about that?
And she's a fashion model. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. With more on this.
TDS is a tough deal, man.
I know, but come on. I mean, how can you ignore beauty like that? Please. Mm-hmm. With more on this, let's welcome to the program for the very first time, Aidan McLaughlin. How are you, Aidan? He is editor-in-chief at Mediaite, which I absolutely love your website, so thank you in advance.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and you wrote an article about how the fashion industry is adapting to Trump 2.0. Are they going to adapt and possibly put the First Lady on the cover of Vogue because she so deserves it? I mean, on looks alone, please.
That is precisely the question that I set out to answer when I was writing this story, because I noticed during the inauguration, if you guys noticed this, there was a considerable softening of the way in which the cultural press, I would say, and I'm including fashion magazines and designers in there, the way they talked about and covered the first family. And it was distinct from the first term where Trump.
Do we have you, Aidan?
Yeah.
We lost Aidan. Okay, let's take a break, and we're going to call Aidan once again and hopefully get this to work.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You never want to miss one of life's most important moments. A graduation, a birthday, a first communion, a wedding. When these moments happen, you want to make sure to capture them so that you and your loved ones can remember them for years to come. For over 30 years, families have relied on Tom Kaloran Photography to capture important life moments. This locally owned family business can provide the solutions you need for your important event photography, from weddings and birthdays to class reunions and golf outings. No matter the size or scope, Tom Kaloran Photography will make sure you have lasting memories to share for years to come. Tom Kaloran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see their portfolio, just visit KaloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN photography.com. Or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Kaloran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, Aidan, let's pick up where we left off. You were talking about the inauguration and how the mainstream media handled her and her fabulous outfit. I thought it was a wide-brimmed hat, obviously, and that austere suit, but I thought she owned it.
Yeah, I think the press, particularly the fashion press, treated her and the first family in general in a far more generous way than they have in years past, particularly in the first term. And when the whole Trump family was kind of treated like they were sort of invading Washington, D.C., that they shouldn't have been there, and most of the press really averted their gaze. Obviously, the political press were all over them. But when it came to fashion magazines, fashion designers, a lot of them either refused to cover them outright or refused to dress them at these major events, which was obviously a huge departure from previous first families, where Vogue would leap at the chance to put Joe Biden on the cover. I think she was on the cover twice. Michelle Obama was on the cover of Vogue, I think 4 times. So typically first ladies are adored by the press, particularly the fashion press. That was never the case with Melania Trump. There is a softening here, I think, just because Trump is no longer considered an aberration. He's actually considered part of the culture, and his resounding win in the last election proves that. The one thing I don't think is going to happen, and from sources that I spoke to for this story, they confirmed that, Melania Trump is not going to be on the cover of Vogue anytime soon.
I'm canceling my
Sorry to break it to you.
Well, I mean, the only time people really focused on her fashion is when she wore that jacket. It was a hunter green jacket emblazoned with "I really don't care, do you?" While she was visiting a migrant child detention center. Do we ever know what the meaning behind that was?
She has always maintained that it was inadvertent, that she didn't wear the jacket to the migrant detention center, that she only wore it on the flight down there. I chalk that up to just a rookie error, bad optics. Her advance team probably should have told her to not wear that kind of jacket when she's doing a sensitive tour like that. One thing I would say about the first Trump term compared to now is that they've gotten a lot better at their fashion choices and their style and how they present themselves. Trump in the first term, his style hasn't changed much, but he was known for the big billowy suits, the long red tie that's shiny, the affixed with Scotch tape in the back. There was Sean Spicer's suit in front of the press lectern. It wasn't an administration known for.
Not again.
2 times a charm,
Yeah, I had
Charles
a great
Thomas.
boy,
The third time is what. All right, Aidan, can you hear us? Oh, wait a minute.
I got you.
There he is.
Okay.
There he is.
So how did you know that Trump held his red tie together with Scotch tape?
There is a photo of it in the wind, and you can see a cross that is Scotch on the back of it. It's a good one. Hey, it works. Can't complain.
Yeah, but he's changed his look now. He doesn't wear the baggy at the ankle pants anymore. I think he's changed his look to be a little more sophisticated, and it looks like he's lost weight.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And it's funny that one of the sources that I spoke to, who works at a leading fashion magazine in New York, and they certainly agreed with the premise that the Trumps are more part of the culture now, and that the fashion industry should start paying attention to them a little bit more. The one point that they made that I think has some sense to it is that there's our big fears in the fashion media world, especially, that Trump is too unpredictable to put on a cover. And the same thing goes with Melania Trump. And the example that they used is, could you imagine if, let's say, a month before the January 6th riot, Vogue had put Melania Trump on the cover? That their global Melania Trump is done when some disaster happens. And
why would ABC, Disney?
Can you hear him, Charles?
Yeah, I had a question for Aidan, a more general question about media. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Okay.
How does a network like my former employer, ABC, fix itself when it still has programs like The View and Jimmy Kimmel on every day? Any thoughts on how they can fix themselves?
I mean, the View has tried over the years to balance out its talent and make sure that it has at least one host on the show that is ostensibly conservative. The issue over the last couple of years is that as Trump has taken over the Republican Party, they have long refused to put someone in that seat who actually supports Trump. And obviously, Alyssa Farah Griffin is the current person in that seat. And I think they were smart to put someone in there who actually worked in the Trump administration. But she's obviously no fan of Trump now.
No,
I think it's going
an
to be very, very
anti-Trumper.
hard.
She's the worst.
Right. And so I think it's going to be very hard for a network like ABC to ever be able to balance itself out, at least on its talk shows and its entertainment shows, to the point where they're actually having people that support Trump in those seats. I think they can stomach a conservative. They can stomach, Anna Navarro, if we can even call her a conservative. But I don't think they're ever going to put someone in that seat. And I don't think Jimmy Kimmel's ever going to have someone on his show that actually genuinely supports Trump.
But how could you be a mass media company and you write off more than half the voting public? They're not going to watch you. They're going to resent you. They're going to hate you, and you're still going to stay in business.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem: is that these media companies are focused on an increasingly smaller part of America. And, that was the original value proposition of Fox News, that you'd have a network that would speak for the 50% of America that doesn't have a single media outlet that works for them. And, and there's plenty of examples in radio as well. I think that these networks are currently focused on survival, and they understand that they're never going to be able to get Trump supporters to tune in again. That I think they see that bond as broken. They can try and go for independence, but that's pretty much all they've got at this point.
What they should do is, have President Trump on, because he'd go on The View, even after all they've made the disparaging remarks for the last years. But he would do it because he likes a challenge and he does not hide.
That would be a Super Bowl of media, man. That would
right. So their producers, if they want to, sink or swim, they should reach out to him and say, "Come on."
I'd watch.
Yeah, you could have Joy Behar's head explode on live TV. It would be great. But what about counter programming? So you could have The View, and then you could have the conservative View after The View. Wouldn't that work?
Yeah, I mean, I like that idea. It's a good programming idea. I'd be surprised. I mean, could you imagine the viewers that settle into The View every day having to sit there and watch the first 5 minutes of the conservative View?
Well, it'd only be a 5-minute show, okay? Let's not go crazy with 4 segments. We'd just have an A block, and then it would be over.
Yep.
So. All right, so you really don't think there's any hope at all of Melania, who's an actual model, getting on the front cover of Vogue magazine?
So the sources that I spoke to said it's just not going to happen for a couple of reasons. One, Anna Wintour and the people that run Vogue and the people that run Condé Nast still think Trump is extreme and bad for the country. So they don't want to touch the first family. Melania Trump's merits aside, she's still the wife of the president of the United States that they consider toxic. And on top of that,
woman.
Yeah, but who actually?
Right, she is.
Who actually subscribes to the hard copy issue of Vogue anymore?
Oh, it's
really.
If you go into beauty shops, I know you don't see them, or nail salons. Vogue is always there.
Really.
What about Ivanka Trump or the second lady? She's gorgeous. J.D. Vance's wife. Why am I blanking on her name? USA. Yeah. USA. Are you there, Aidan? Well,
Sorry, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. What do you want to say about the second lady?
I think that they both have a better chance than Melania because there's a little bit of distance between them and the president. Ivanka Trump obviously is not really involved in politics anymore. Usha Vance, I think it depends on how JD is perceived. But one thing I do want to point out is Vogue wants to sell magazines. And I think there is a consideration that Vogue's audience will not buy a Vogue magazine if Trump is on the cover. And you might get, you might juice sales in Red America, which I'm sure they'd like. But they're thinking about the long-term health of the brand. if they do that, at least half their audience is just going to turn around and say, this is unacceptable. We're never in vogue again. I think you'd get a serious bull. Why it's just never going to happen.
All right, Aidan McLaughlin, thank you so much for joining us. Editor-in-chief of Mediaite, and his column is How the Fashion Industry is Adapting to Trump 2.0. Aidan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer. Are you an administrator, staff member, or parent volunteer at a private school? Would you like to grow your current enrollment and welcome new families to your school? If so, we want to tell you about a great opportunity to help increase enrollment and promote your school to families all across Chicagoland. It's called ChicagolandSchoolVouchers.com. They work to connect private schools